Okay, so we are live. It's Louisa Munson and Rick Pursell. I'm from Portugal or UK, living in Portugal, and I'm joined by Rick, who is residing in Bali, in a beautiful little place in Bali, I must say. Now, this is our second attempt at this show. So if you managed to find us, it's a miracle because I haven't actually sort of advertised it. But it's called Help, I'm Feeling Triggered. And the really funny thing is I'm actually feeling really quite triggered because what happened before, it just went crazy. Like everything was repeating itself, wasn't it? It was.
Yes, it was.
A great big loop of the intro music, the countdown music, everything we were saying. It was just added in. It was like some hideous kind of like sixth form rap song or something. It was Anyway, here we are.
We're here. We're here.
My goodness, what a start to the show that was. So anyway, I thought this would be a topical one, Rick, because like tomorrow we've got a full moon. Let me just tell you about it quickly. It's a full moon in Gemini, and that is always, it's got a lot to do with opinions. You know, when the moon's in Gemini, everyone's a bit like, and sort of a bit factual based. And there's a lot of things coming out at the moment. If you think of like Twitter and social media, they're kind of Gemini phenomenons, but it's in a conjunction with Mars, and Mars is a bit like known to be fiery and makes our emotions a little bit like, whew, you know, all sort of bubbles up very quickly. So I thought talking about being triggered would be quite helpful. How are you feeling at the moment? How's the sort of tempo over where you are?
The tempo is good, but inevitably when a full moon is approaching and during it, it disturbs my sleep incredibly. So last night I woke up several times because it was very bright.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, it's getting on daylight, but no, it's not daylight. I always get up just before dawn. So I was very conscious of how much light was streaming through.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a disturbed sleep last night.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
I mean, deal with that.
We're all tossing and turning at the time of the full moon. Thankfully, we've got shutters where we live, which does help. But there is a kind of feeling of it anyway. You know, there's a sort of consciousness of it. What would you like? I mean, what I'm noticing, I don't know if you go on Twitter at all anymore. Do you go on Twitter?
No, I'm just keeping an eye on what Elon Musk is doing there and what will eventuate from his presence. But I'm not usually active at all on Twitter.
Yeah, that's like me, actually. I kind of listen from the sidelines, go, ooh, they didn't see that coming, did they? Most people are getting sort of, they're mixing the twist about quite a few things at the minute. So, wow, there's so many sensory things today, aren't there?
Yes, we've got some breeze and the chimes are singing along, and yeah, it's a gorgeous day here, beautiful day.
Yeah, it does look nice and bright and breezy. I think we're in sort of like going to be rain today, but anyway. So feeling triggered then, and that sort of like, how does it occur to you? Like for me, I feel like this sense of irritation brewing, like this, almost like my expectations are being stopped. And to me, it feels like the bubbling up of something inside that needs to come out. How does feeling triggered occur to you?
It feels like it's emanating from the gut. It feels like something is arising internally through the physical structure.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of it being triggered mentally first. Preceding all action is the thought. But it may happen with such an instantaneous approach that we're not conscious of the thought that we had, but the thought is there, it's registered, and then it registers within the emotional body, which then transposes it into the physical body, and then we can feel it physically. Right? But it happens so quickly that it all seems to just go woof.
Yeah,
it's there.
Sort of ignites.
I don't I'm not aware of any slow motion to it. Right? If it was in slow-mo, it would be really good because we'd say, oh, here we go. But inevitably, I'm aware of being triggered and I instantly jump on it, usually successfully, but not always, and say, I'm triggered here. What I read, what I was watching, whatever was the stimulus has triggered something within me. And I see it as a gift, as unpleasant and uncomfortable as it is. So the first thing I ever do is take responsibility for it. But to answer your question, there is a sense of something welling up and arising. And it seems to be coming not from the heart, because I think heart would emanate only love. Right? Compassion and kindness and understanding come from the heart. It appears to come from the power center. And maybe it is because we possibly sense a loss of the power. And that's what's triggered us.
Yeah.
Whether it's a statement, maybe we just disconnected from our true authenticity or our power. I don't know. I really don't know the mechanics of it. I'm just aware that that's where it seems to be coming from for me. Maybe other people. How is it for you?
Well, I'm traditionally a bit of a hothead. And that was my reputation very much as a child. And any kind of injustice would get me fired up. That was, one of my trigger things. If things weren't fair, that was like a red rag to the bull. You're right. I think if it did occur in slow motion, you could catch yourself in the original thought. I think, first of all, I probably deal with it with a little bit of sarcasm. Like if, obviously, sort of unschooling, homeschooling with 3 children and a husband who likes to crack a joke. It comes up quite a bit. It's kind of inescapable almost. But like you say, it's a gift, because once something comes up, you recognize something's like coming up from within, and it kind of it brews up very quickly. And I see it with the kids as well. Like your daughters are a bit older, aren't they? Whereas mine are very much in that blow upable stage where all of a sudden that's it, the fuse is gone. But it's never usually about what it is that's going on. It's, like when we unpick it, often they're about really ridiculous things, like really serious, like silly things that really don't matter. But that when you talk about them, if you get the chance to talk about them before the shit hits the fan, then you can unpick it and see what's underneath it. And usually there's a hurt feeling of some sort. There's something much deeper. And in my own experience, I think it's usually something that I've experienced that have not resolved from the past. But I don't know that that's a standard definition or not. Like one of the things I noticed, Rick, in recent times, maybe in the last like 5 years or so, is there's this kind of proud energy of, I am my emotions and I'll show my emotions, and it's really healthy to show my emotions. That kind of energy. I've seen it with a few women, who are like, who maybe have subscribed to this idea that, women aren't very powerful. And it's almost seen as a moment of pride and personal responsibility to really feel your emotions and go into it. And I wonder if there's a missing piece there. That like we can feel our things, our emotions, so that we can kind of capture what's going on and get closer to them. But then feeling them isn't enough. It should lead, or it could lead to something else. It could lead to a possibility of releasing them. Whereas I feel from some of the people I've met in recent times, there's this, maybe there's an acceptance. It might be a cultural one. It might be one that's kind of brought up by different liberation groups of some sort. There's this idea that it's good to be emotional, and I'm not entirely sure it is. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Have you come across that energy?
I have, and just backing up a little bit, I think there's a multiple reasons and scenarios that would cause us to get triggered. And I share the same one with you. One of my highest values is justice.
Yeah.
And so injustices do not go down well with me. And I'm very conscious of that. But there's another one where we feel offended by what somebody has just said, whether it's directed to us or not. And that appears to me to be coming from the ego, because only the ego can be offended. We, the infinite consciousness that is animating these bodies, is untouched by everything that is transpiring in our lives, no matter how painful it is, mentally, emotionally, physically. The spirit, the soul, whatever label we want to put on it, is untouched. But the ego loves to take umbrage, and it loves to fight back. It loves to make ourselves right and the other person wrong. So I'm also conscious of that. There's one scenario where this is an injustice, and I have no qualms about feeling it, and feeling that this is not right. This is the reality, but this needs to change. That's one form of getting triggered. The other form is the ego that just jumps out there. How dare you offend me? Or how dare you have that opinion? Right? That's the number 6 on the piece of paper. Right? One person sees a 6, one person sees a 9, and we're both right from our perspectives. So that's another aspect of being triggered, and I think it's worthwhile investigating, where is this coming from? Is this coming from a deep-seated value that I have, that it's not right as such, or is it just coming from, as that can be a response, or is it a reaction to something? And then if it's a reaction, we can then go into it, dive into it at the appropriate time. Probably wouldn't be at the time we're triggered, but we might want to zip it. After we've told ourselves, okay, who's been triggered here? Whose stuff is triggered? Right?
That's a really good question. I've been playing with questions quite a lot in the last couple of weeks, and like, who does this belong to is a question I've been asking myself a lot.
Yes.
And when I notice that I'm feeling triggered on somebody else's behalf, I then have to stop, because one of the things I've noticed, in fact, out of, like, our children have obviously got different dynamics, and I am standing up for one of the children at the moment, on her behalf, and I'm not actually being asked to. And I realized it's little Louisa that's really being triggered here. Like, who does this belong to? It belongs to me, but it belongs to a past me. It belongs to a memory from a long ago.
Yes.
And it's really confusing when it comes up, because it feels so real. It feels so current. It feels like it's in the now.
Exactly. But it's not. You're right. You've identified it's something from the past. So a good chance that it's a learned conditioned reaction. We've learned it from somewhere. In our childhood, probably. We've conditioned ourselves. We've watched it enumerate itself many times, and we've taken on that, identified with that. Oh, that's how I deal with conflict, or that's the way I should respond, or that's a reaction is better. This leads to violence and war. Right? So the solution is to just identify, if this is my stuff, we have to take ownership for it. Responsibility, and we have to quietly, silently say, this is my stuff. You've got yours, right? This is my stuff. And then you might want to back away a little bit, depending on how volatile the situation is. Just say, sorry, I just got triggered. I just need to go and deal with this. Right? Not running away, but not running for the knife or the pitchfork either. Just okay. if not, I'm just not gonna make any comment now. And then when it's appropriate to go back, I think, my God, I really got triggered back then. And re-feel it again, feel it coming up. What was the scenario? And then re-feel it and dive energy and released and healed.
Yeah.
That's why it's happening.
Yeah.
We choose our partners so that they will bring out all that needs to be healed and all of the goodness as well.
Yes, don't they just? Like one of the things I've noticed is, like in the heat of it, and actually, I'm wondering, like the people that are watching us before on our disastrous first attempt at this show seem to have found us again. Oh, one's just gone. Isn't that funny? Like when you like notice who's watching, everyone's like, oh gosh, they might be able to see me. But I'm wondering what it's like for you. Let us know where you're listening in from. And what triggers you, what sets you off, and how you cope with it. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is if you don't get to the root of it straight away, you'll end up arguing the toss about something with somebody that actually isn't really relevant. And somewhere along the lines, if you're being really honest, you'll realize you're having to make up an argument because your real argument isn't there. They never stand up to scrutiny. And I only know this from our own little set twos that we have here in the Munson household. You're really right, Rick. I mean, recently, Carl and I have been doing a lot of reading and listening to podcasts and things like that, and wanting to bring as much of possibility into our relationship as possible. So we've been talking in terms of expansion and joy and love and what would it be like to experience more of this? And in doing so, we've created such a safe space that all the old crap that's been lurking has come up. And all it took was a couple of stressful situations, in particular a birthday party and the organization of it, to trigger like that moment where all of a sudden it felt like things were sort of like time sensitive and a bit stressful, and this stuff just erupted out of nowhere, and it took a good couple of weeks to settle. And like, bless Carl, bless me for carrying on in these conversations, because they went on and on and on. And what I noticed was it really brought up, I think, one of my deepest no-go areas and one of his at the same time. And we couldn't get to a safe space to be able to listen with impartiality, like listen as if it's a point of interest. I think it's always helpful when one person blows up that the other cannot take it personally. And we've kind of got an agreement in our household that that's how it works. If there's something really big going on for one of us, the other will just we don't always do it on first go. Sometimes it takes a couple of attempts, but we're normally quite good at getting to the bottom of it. And what it takes usually is for one of us to just listen with interest and curiosity, but not with taking it personally. And we're able to unpick what's going on. But when my thing is triggering his thing and then back, and it was like this reverberation, a bit like the start of the show, the first attempt. It was just echoing back, and we were lost in it, absolutely lost in it. It was, yeah. I'm so pleased to be the other side of it.
Yes,
just absolutely.
We are mirroring. We're
Yeah.
mirroring each other. We
Yeah,
are just
absolutely.
holding up a mirror for each of us.
Yeah.
And of course, what we don't like in someone else is what we don't like in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they are showing us what we don't like. And if you think about it objectively, it's an extraordinary process.
It is. Yeah.
That two people could come together in love, attracted by whatever they were attracted to,
Yeah.
or by, and then once the honeymoon period is over, we start recognizing stuff that we don't like, and sometimes totally oblivious to. We maybe haven't had the maturity to look at well, do I do a little bit of that? Am I a little bit insensitive sometimes? Do I
Yeah.
get irritated?
Yeah.
Right. And right up to extremes. So we haven't fully taken responsibility for it and ownership for it. So then it gets in this banter. You did that. You said this and that. And it can be very, very destructive, because in the meanwhile, the ego is saying, yeah, stick it to him, stick it to her, whatever's, it's sitting in the background, just wallowing in this fear and this irritation and all of this low vibrational frequency stuff. And yet we at the true core are untouched by it. Yeah. There's the paradox, isn't it? That we've come together in order to heal something within our psyche. And the very thing that we, who is there to help us heal, we're now attacking. Doesn't make any sense.
No,
you can't make sense out of the ego anyway. It's all fear.
Yeah, that's true. That's true enough. So yeah, we've been brought up close and personal to I'd love to say our core, but who actually knows some of the core egoic concerns that have come up in our life. It's been exhausting and very very sort of irritating for our family. And it's so funny because the party that I was talking about, that everything sort of blew up over, like, you know, we've been in this funny headspace of irritation, and where we had kids, like kids everywhere at our house, our kids actually got nits or headlights. And so all of us, because we're such a close-knit family, you know, and we spend so much time together, we've all been scratching our heads over this, and it's ongoing because I'm trying to treat it naturally rather than getting the big old chemicals out on it. So it's taking its time to like settle back into normality.
Yes. Yes. So maybe take out something out of your vocabulary. When we are a close-knit family, what does that say?
Oh my goodness, I didn't even see that. I love how language intersperses like that. Yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah, we're a tight family. We get on very well. We function together. Wow, I never even saw that.
Yeah, very good.
Out of my okay. We're not in a close knit family with knits. Okay, that's great. Oh my goodness.
We're a loving, connected family.
Yes, that's a good one. That's a great one.
Yeah. So teenage girls here, they are they triggering each other all the time.
Because they're twins, aren't they? So
yes, they're twins.
They're
like chalk and cheese.
Okay, yeah. Tell me more about the twin experience.
So one will say, "Oh, such and such is so annoying," all right? Or I'm so irritated with such and such. And the first question I ask, irritability is it? And that tends to...
I missed that question. It didn't come out. Can you say that question?
I asked the question, whose annoyance is it? Right? You've stated the fact that you're annoyed at such and such. Whose annoyance is it? Yeah. So the very first step that I want to take in the healing is I wanted them to take responsibility, come inwards and say, yeah, I'm annoyed. It's my stuff. Yeah. However, there is another side of things, right? So that's got to be is taking responsibility and ownership for whatever we're feeling, whether it's emotional feeling. Then now you've curbed half of the problem. You've solved half the problem. Yeah. Because we can't somebody else, but we can change ourselves. And there's a lovely old saying, I might have been Wayne Dyer. I can't remember exactly, but he said, it's never the person, the place, or the situation that's the problem. It's the way we see it. It's the way we look at it.
Yeah.
So there we are projecting, oh, this is so annoying, right? I can't do anything about people's annoyance. I can't do anything about Joe Biden or what's happening in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Is how am I feeling? What is my response? Or if it's triggered, what is my reaction to it? I can do something about that.
Yeah.
It's the ownership. And then we progress from there. That's a starting point.
Yeah. Do you? I agree. I think it's really good to get to the core of like, who does this belong to? I think that's a really smart thing, you know. And also like how we see it is how we're experiencing it. So if we can see it differently, the whole thing changes straight away. Do you like how do we integrate that into our day to day? Because one of the things that I've been very conscious of is how the sort of common narrative culture is almost begging for discord, begging for irritation, begging for anger. You know, the mantras repeated by you know, outside so-called authorities, like in the news and stuff, are just absolutely begging to create upset, and really doing all they can to sow it. Like how can we help others to come back into not order, but how can we help support people who I almost feel like we need a myth buster or like a vocab buster, because there are certain key phrases, aren't there, that I see in you know, in the news and in social media feeds that just seem to be like Molotov cocktails. You know, they're only there to blow things up. And what I've noticed is it's become such a normal technique to use these phrases now that we've almost forgotten how to have other conversations and have other reactions. So how do we help to change change the way people are interacting with each other? You know, like things like "it's the science." You know, there's all these kind of shorthand phrases that are now sort of hackneyed out there. You know, like everyone uses them, and there's this like common acceptance or perceived acceptance that, oh, when you say that, that means this. And I'm quite disturbed by it, I have to say. And also not just phrases, but other things that I notice is strategies. You know, news reels now, rather than dealing in facts, they deal in opinions about the people they're trying to make less influential. And it seems to be okay. Nobody seems to be questioning it. I mean, like, well, what the hell's going on? Now I'm feeling triggered. I'm triggering myself because I can see that there are underhand techniques being used to trigger people.
And
Have you
that's the injustice of it.
Yeah, that's
That, that's a low, and it's twofold. I think we have to recognize that there's a human trait that if I'm hurting and I hurt somebody else, it'll make me feel better. So if we can recognize that people who are projecting their scheißen on us are truly hurting.
Yeah.
If we, despite the barrage that's coming at us, if we could see what's behind the pain that is the root cause of this, whether it's a childhood thing or whatever it was, this person is hurting. This person is hurting, and they are projecting that hurt because they've never been shown or don't have the courage to go in there and resolve it, right? And that needs a little bit of skill on an individual from a coaching perspective. But there is pain there, and that pain is being projected outwards on the belief that it will make me feel better. That's one thing.
Temporary relief, right?
It sort of gives temporary relief, but we realize that generally you know how wretched you feel when you've just abused somebody
Yeah.
or you've said
Yeah.
something that's unkind. And often we'll go back and say, listen, sorry, let me take that back. I was not
I do. Straight away.
and I will say, listen, I was triggered. I was
Yeah.
triggered. I don't say you triggered me. I said
Yeah.
I was triggered, and I want to revamp that, what I said, or take it back completely. That's a more mature approach to doing it. Not easy to do because they're saying, "Go on, get them," right? Make the other person wrong,
Yeah.
right? So we're finally the black wolf keeps his head off.
Yeah.
So it's an internal battle that we're having, and the battle is fed by pain and trauma. So
And
now
I'm feeling justified in having that pain and trauma.
Absolutely justified. We can justify it because part of the ego is victimhood. If we fall into victimhood as the ego, as our fallback, then we can do anything we like to somebody.
Yeah.
And you don't have to look very far around the world to see this being played out.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. That's on an you can see and recognize evil, right, are hurting. They're hurting so badly. They're so disconnected from their true core, from their collective human family, that they're prepared to perpetuate sorts of horrors onto other people. At the core of that is a deep-seated pain and trauma. And there is usually, at that level, there is usually no desire to change. There is no change because they've ridden on that wave of pain, and it's got them up the corporate ladder, it's got them up the political ladder, it's got them, it's working for them, right? Although their lives are miserable, right? And you only have to look at some of the faces of these people to see the absolute pain and misery there. But that modus operandi has worked for them. So they're not going to give it up in a hurry.
Yeah.
Right? And willingness is the key to healing. If there's no willingness to heal, then you might as well bash your head against the wall. So that's not only the collective healing, but also the personal healing. So, yeah, we can't change anybody, change ourselves. If we can be a role model, if we can teach our kids conflict resolution, if we can teach our kids about the heart values of compassion and understanding, and really, if there's a conflict going on, have one party that maybe has been the victim of it. Victim's not really the right word, but rather than just countering that, just stop for a moment and recognize what's behind this attack on you. That person's hurting. Can you understand what it's like, what it would be like to hurt that much to be able to behave that way? Right? And now we're rolling in a bit of compassion, right? So understanding, compassion, a little bit of forgiveness doesn't go any bad, and some humility. So there we're talking about 4 of the heart virtues of the heart to counter this attack, and just see it with the proviso and love the person, but we do not condone the behavior.
Yeah.
So separating the behavior from the person. See, this person is hurting. They've been inflicted with pain and been conditioned. They've witnessed reactions. They've learned all this stuff, and they are now just playing this role out. It's not even the recipient of this is not even the problem. It goes back. It might have been dad or mum or Uncle
It could go
Bill.
back generations.
Right?
It's like it's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? Right? Very festive.
Yes.
Ho ho
Yes.
ho. Yeah. I love what you're sharing there. I also think, like we are victims in those moments, like we feel like victims for sure. And I also recognize that sometimes people are taking this stuff on for the family, so it actually comes out, you know, where it's been like a whisper, some kind of pervasive, almost stench that's been unaccounted for, but it's been there like a little perfume, a fragrance, a kind of subversive fragrance down the family line. You know, some people will take on these angers, and actualize them and manifest them, and I don't think they necessarily know that they're doing it. But when you sort of like look at a slightly bigger sort of generational level, it becomes clearer. I
Yes.
really love what you're saying about kindness and compassion as well. Got a really great friend, Dee, and I'd love to put you guys in contact. You guys have gone so well. And she teaches loving kindness, and you know, she's also living over here, and I knew her in the UK, and at these times, sometimes I just give her a call, and she just listens, and she says, "What pain does it remind you of?" And we just breathe, and that's all we do. She just looks at me, and I know that she's holding me in complete loving regard, not judging me, just allowing me to just be and experience. And earlier you said it takes a lot of courage to get to these first moments. And it's funny because nearly all that happens is I get to a stage where I make myself vulnerable. I don't make myself vulnerable, but all of a sudden this little me, this very like tiny little me that feels very sort of battered and bruised, comes out. And it's just a crying, actually. It's the courage, having the courage to cry, having the courage to be able to say, I'm vulnerable. I was vulnerable and I was hurt. And I think the covering up of being hurt is one of the most damaging things that we can do. You know, we try and be sort of brave and like we put bravado around things. But in my own experience, that, you know, when I go back, it's this tiny me that's hurt and is too afraid to say, stop, I'm hurting.
Yes.
It's very humbling.
Yeah, it is humbling. And look at the six heart, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, humility,
Yeah.
bravery, courage, appreciation, and gratitude.
Yeah.
If we can fall back on those and utilize them, when we're triggered, how can we, instead of going from the ego and reacting, how could we respond from the heart? What of these heart virtues could I put together? Courage and understanding, or whatever it is, and utilize that to soften the situation.
Yeah.
And you're not alone in what you're doing. I'm finding I'm going through a lot of grief at the moment.
Really.
Some
That's
of it is
like
mine.
grief that I was
Yeah.
identifying yesterday, actually. Sorry,
Yep.
go on. Grief.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not all mine, but part of it is from the grief of being human, the pain of existence, the long history of the human we've endured, the insanities, the wars, the hate, the empire building, the freedoms. And I'm finding that this is coming up, and it's triggering, and I'm healing my portion of it, right? So that helps. Whatever's happening, that's helping the collective. It's just like if we're sending out beautiful thoughts into the wherever they go, into the collective mind, of course, then that is reshaping to some degree. One thought at a time is reshaping the collective thought process. So one at a time, one releasing this pent up grief or this pent up fear or this pent up anger, not projecting, but releasing it and letting it go, having taken ownership for it and just let it go, and asking ourselves, you know, how does it serve me to hold on to this? Right? How does it serve me? Right? So we can just release it and let it go.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love how you've linked it into, the pain of existence, the pain of being human. That's definitely been coming up for me. Me too. And a lot of people that I speak to tend to be sort of having this kind of ribbon of feeling and grief sort of underlying everything. And, we all experience it differently in our own ways. Something that I've been doing a lot more in this last week in particular is just connecting in with my body, which I always forget to do, or actually I don't tend to do it. I tend to be very much in my head, pushing through with what I want to do, like the ego me. Like, I must do this, must work, must do this, blah, 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 all these little plans and stuff. And I rarely stop and think, is this what my body wants? And so I've actually been having an online dialogue, a bit like, the Neil Donald Walsh book, Conversations with God.
Yeah.
I'm having conversations with my body, which is my God at the minute. That's the voice that I'm speaking with at the moment. What I've really recognized is that my body has been taking on all these emotions that I've not been processing because I've been working at breakneck speed to do stuff and trying to be like the best, the most healed, all this kind of malarkey, which is also very egoic. But, in my sort of like relentless need to push, my body's just like sucked it all up and sort of like made it safe for me in my body. But I'm really listening in now and having these conversations, hearing it talk back, telling me what it doesn't like. I was a bit surprised. I don't know how to have my tea now, that it's not forbidding me, but it's saying, please don't have honey. I don't like honey. And it's like, oh God. So I'm actually making these changes. I'm actually serving my body. I'm actually really listening in to what it's saying. And it's amazing. In doing so, I've got so much more clear about where it's cold, where it feels slow, where it feels jumbled. Which, I mean, I knew quite a bit of that anyway, but I do it with other people. I don't do it with myself. And so the practice for me has been to pay attention.
Yeah. That's wonderful. And it doesn't come easy. And I think we've discussed it in the past, that the mental body is the outer shield, or one of the outer shields. It's unseen. The content of that permeates through the emotional body, which then triggers those low-level emotions. And those two bodies permeate the physical body. And they will lodge in the body as stuckness. Stuck in is no flow about it. And that then ferments dis-ease, which eventually comes out as disease. So it really behooves us to look after these bodies, listen to them, feed them, exercise them, water them, whatever it needs, but treat it like the temple that it is, because we will carry these limiting beliefs and negative thoughts, which are then triggering victimhood, I'm not good enough, all of that, all these low-level feelings, blame, shame, and regret, all stuck in the body. And this is in the work of Gabor Mate, who does the trauma releasing. And these pains can be released through sound healing, from singing, from exercises, yoga, all of the release these stuck points in the body. Well, that's part of our gift to our body, and respecting it. After all, it comes from the earth. We have the elements. We have air, we have water, we have soil, earth, we have wind, and the other ones, which are exactly the same. Ether. We have the same elements as the earth. So we came from the earth, we'll go back. The very fact that humanity, a bulk of humanity, is being disingenuous and disrespectful for their own bodies is a reflection of what's happening on the earth. Where now also, if we can do it, So we ravage the rainforest and we pollute the waters and the soils and the air. It's just a micro scale of principles. There's pain. It comes down to pain.
Yes, it really does. Wow. I feel like this is a nice point for us to stop at. Just because I think we could, like, if we don't stop now, I think we could just keep going all day.
For days and days on end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we could have a lovely full sharing, couldn't we? And both be here blubbing our eyes out in no time at all. And I've got nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
Definitely not. But I need to get Mr. M because he's got his show soon. So
very good.
And we don't want to trigger another great big old row.
Well, I thank you once again for this opportunity to share and for your sharing and making this portal available to us who are either contributing or to listening in or watching in. So a great service, and it's very, very much appreciated. So thank you.
Do you know what I mean? I absolutely love when we connect, you know, getting the chance to sort of put ideas backwards and forwards and you know, our deep sharings and stuff. I got some really nice feedback from somebody this week because, like, we don't have an obviously large following. You know, we don't always get many people watching live, and you know, sometimes it could feel like, you know, we're just doing it for no reason at all, other than, you know, I think I do it very selfishly because it feels good. And I enjoy it. But I actually got some feedback from somebody who's been watching us for a really, really long time, you know, and has actually, you know, watches pretty much all the shows, and has just said it's really nice to meet people who work in sort of the healing fields, who are actually sharing from personal experience, because so many have this sort of veneer of professionalism. You know that school of thought where, you know, you mustn't share anything of yourself. You know, it's all about the other person and their experience. But I always think, you know, when you're sharing from your personal experience, you're really just helping create another story for people to maybe relate to. You're helping to create a safe space for people. But you know, the overall feeling that I got from the feedback was that this is valuable, and that it really is a safe space, and we're making it okay for people to go to different places. So I really do thank you. And I thank, you know, obviously I'm not going to name the person, but yeah, thank you so much for your feedback. It meant the world to me, I have to say. I was like, wow. And we've just got some feedback in now from, there's a couple of people
Gemma.
sharing now. Yeah, Gemma. So she's saying, just catching the last 15 minutes, will double back and listen fully. The small bit I heard, perfect for me right now, you guys. Please don't stop. So valuable. Thank you so much, Gemma. If you go back over the channel, you'll see we had a very big false start where the intro music looped and looped and looped. Oh my goodness. So we had to start this again. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I always feel that, you know, when we have like these beautifully awakened people like with us, that things get easier and smoother in our conversations. Would you agree with that, Rick?
There's an energetic flow that I am feeling by the viewers and the people participating. I can't identify any one person, but I'm just feeling there is an energy that is incredibly supportive. There's a spiritual nod going on there through the energetic field.
Yeah, definitely.
Whoever it is drops a pebble in the pond of energy, and those ripples come out and touch us.
Yeah,
and that's how we change the world. One pebble at a time.
Really feeling that. That's so special. Thank you. Oh, that's beautiful. And thank you, Gemma. And we're listening. We've got Siri as well, who's just saying hi. She's joining us from Norway. She's saying, sorry to see you are leaving as I am arriving, but we'll watch later. Thank you so much, Siri. Really appreciate
Lovely.
your here
Thank
today
you,
as
Siri.
well. Really, really appreciate it. And I know there's other people watching as well. So thank you all who join us live. And thank you to everyone that catches us later, because, you know, if we really do live in this kind of sort of time-space continuum where there is no time, then you're all actually with us now anyway, and we're feeling you. So if it's future you that we're speaking to right now, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Lovely. Yeah. Thank you from Bali as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rick. I look forward to more conversations. How are you set over Christmas? Are you busy? Do you have a couple
we've pretty well got a full house, and my dear friends, the Italians, just arrived back in Bali after being away almost 16. We've got a lot of catching up to do.
Wow, that sounds great.
Yes.
Are you okay to meet up next week? And hopefully I'll be able to say,
indeed.
Yeah, free finally.
Yeah, indeed. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh, bless you. All right. Well, thank you so much today. I'm not going to use the outro music, but I'm just going to literally just stop. So it's going to go be very sudden. But thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll catch you real soon. So much
Bye
love.
now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.